The next question is a new topic, and it's architectural standards. The question is at the end. We have architectural standards and covenants that all residents, new and old, are supposed to abide by. As time has gone on, that is less the case. New homes go up and violations of the standards and covenants occur, some of which are too major to require correction. It appears that in those cases, variances are automatically granted. Minor covenant violations, i.e. house numbers, continue to occur, and again, no corrections to bring the violations in line seem to happen. Here's the question. How will you ensure our standards are enforced and future violations and associated variances are stopped? And this question will first go to Rick Beers.
Being the first one on this topic is interesting. Look, I'd approach it three ways, I think. And the first is the architectural guidelines themselves. Those guidelines were written primarily with a focus of new housing, new homes. How are new homes designed? What do they look like? How do they fit into the specific sub neighborhood or sub community that they're in? The target was was building. I think we need to take a look at those and take it from the approach of a mature community, how we keep fresh. How do we stay fresh? And then we have to start worrying about things that have come up, Denise, in your question. I think the second way, or the second target, are the covenants themselves. And right now, I think they have not been reviewed since 2012 or 2013. I think a goal, I'm really interested in seeing us review those covenants this year to see how relevant they are to a community that is building out. And finally, the question of enforcement. And this is the one that gets the most difficult. What is reasonable? What do we push? There's no right answer here. There really isn't. We need to balance the needs of the community, the HOA, against the needs of individual residents. And it's very difficult for some covenants to be taken literally. It really is. Take parking on the street, for example. How do we take that one literally? So I think if we take it from three direct, so I guess the point is covenants, once one has to worry about enforcement, the first two didn't do their job, which is review architectural standards and review covenants, and then deal with the outliers through enforcement.
Thank you. Bob Boccio?
Interesting question. I think the architectural reviews that we have are fine for the new builds. I've seen some occasions, even in my own neighborhood, where the issue isn't the new build, it's someone taking over an existing house that may have been here for, say, 20 years, and deciding all of a sudden they want a pool. I don't think we review that all that well. Whether or not they went for permission, I don't know. All I do know is the neighbors of that particular residence complained profusely to the HOA and got nowhere. And there were certain violations that were made while that pool was being built. Nothing was done about it. So I think it's important not just to set up the rules, which I think have to be refreshed for how things have changed, but I think we need to do a lot better job of policing. And if it means just having an expansion of the review board going out on occasions and various sections at a time to see exactly what's happening, that may be one suggestion, but I think it could be addressed and done a better job of policing, what's going on, and not just taking for granted the rules are there and follow them and we trust you. And we shouldn't have to rely on neighbors to report the problem. It ought to be something that we actually address. Thank you.
Thank you. Daphne?
I think from what I'm hearing, and I don't have a lot of personal experience with this, I just know that there is a lot of discussion in the community about enforcing covenants generally, is that our mindset, our systems were set up for monitoring new construction. You know, you frame the house, you get somebody out to look at it. Is it correct? Did you have the right footprint? All those things. We don't really have a system that is geared to what's happening now. As you mentioned, Bob, is people buying the house and adding to it, changing, doing whatever. So I don't know how we, and potentially they are actually two separate issues, and how we look at that and how we monitor it. I would be concerned with setting up a police force to go and inspect too much. There's some resistance to the idea of inspections now, and I don't think we want to push that to the point where people resent this, because then I think it becomes counterproductive. This is a great idea. I realize that it doesn't help with what we would actually do, but I think there's a lot of tension around this question, and it needs to be sort of handled somewhat cautiously.
Okay, thank you. Roy Masson?
I'll make 2 points actually in addition to a couple that have already been made. Is that the problem really is making sure that folks have the knowledge about what the requirements are, okay? And preventing the problem up front is probably the best possibility of success of addressing this problem. So I really think that the applicant, and I'm going to phrase it that way, has knowledge requirements that are maybe not being met here, okay? And I'm going to take this all the way back to technology. Is that yes, indeed, I can go to the FCHOA website and dig through how many pages to find out what the issue might be to put in a pool, okay, and what my requirements might be. But frankly, it's a little bit like we're farming and it's the 20s and we're deciding that our horse is okay, while everybody else is using a tractor, okay? When that happens, what happens to your farm? It goes away. And that's what's happening with our website, okay? If it's so difficult to get the information that we need, people don't look for it and people don't get it, okay? And all that does is start a whole cascade of problems and issues that then are addressed by things that are negative, like police forces, trying to do enforcement, etc. It doesn't work, okay? We really need to do a better job of making that information available to folks and make it easy for them to get it and also to understand.
Thank you, Roy. Ray Van Cott?
So for the first time, I'm going to disagree with one of my colleagues here. Yes, it's hard to find on the website. It's information on covenants and for what you can build and what you're not. However, it's very easy to dial one phone number and talk to the people at the CSB and get the same information. And if you don't want to use the website, get it in writing and sent to you. So I think we're talking about two different things. We're talking about ARC, building standards, and we're talking about covenants. Building standards, when someone goes to build here, deposits, we enforce a rather substantial deposit surety type of bond structure against the building to make sure it complies. Now, does everyone follow that? No. And for that, we have financial penalties. And if it may not be enough, we've argued on the board level that maybe we need to increase them, but we do have it. Covenant enforcement, as Daphne said, that is really a tough thing. If my first Talk of the Colony article was on covenant enforcement, and we have a very passive, I consider it a passive approach to covenant enforcement, whereby when a house is being transferred, ownership's being transferred, you are required to do an inspection. The inspection looks at whether or not there are any covenant violations. If there are, you have to correct them prior to sale, or we don't allow the sale to go through. And so we've held up a number of closings because of that. Now, is that the best way to do it? I don't think so, but it is the way we're currently doing it now. Having covenant police is something that I struggle with. I mean, someone can drive through any street and find someone who's got some type of covenant violation. And how do we fix that? Do we send police out, or do we have a covenant force or not? And I think it's one that we have to discuss, but I'm not happy with the current level of covenant enforcement and the issues that it creates as we see continually in this. Thank you.